Hey, I'm James.
And I'm Matthew.
And we play in Deaf Havana. The first track, Wake, isn't really a song, it's more of an intro leading into the song Sinner. And it was I just wanted it to be sort of like the first thing you heard was a choir singing lyrics that allude to the chorus of the next song. But it merely just serves a purpose to introduce the next song, which is Sinner, which is actually the first song that I wrote for the record. There's a theme on the whole record which is really sin, so Sinner probably sums up the record the best. It's just about the way that I treated people over the last 10 years and how I feel pretty bad about it. And I think it was just a lot of guilt that came out that I didn't really realise I was carrying around. It was... What did you feel when I sent you that song?
I really like the change in direction with Sinner and how it married together the miserable lyrics and quite upbeat sound and chorus. Next up is Ritual.
Ritual, which is... I lied. Ritual was the first song I wrote for this record. When I wrote it, I didn't think it was going to be for our band because it sounded so... The version I wrote first was even poppier than the actual version. It's again about carrying around guilt and feeling terrible about the way I treat people, and almost being on tour, you're in a different city every day, and I kind of feel like I leave how I'm feeling in each city, so I can forget about things and black them out. So that's what Ritual's about. That one's very personal to me. You can do the next one.
Up next is Hell. Hell came from myself, James, Max, God bless his soul, and Phil, our producer, getting snowed in his house, and we set ourselves a ridiculous brief of trying to write a song with absolutely no guitars in. And so most of the noises you hear are a sample of either mine, James's, Max's or Phil's voice that we then turned into like a synth sounding sort of thing.
The main bass in the whole song
is Phil hitting a low E.
Because none of us could sing that low. That one was quite strange because we wrote it around a drum loop, which is on the record, which we again re-recorded with real drums. The lyrics are from a song that I wrote as a joke, like a dark like hip-hop song that I had a while ago, and then I realised that the lyrics fitted perfectly into this song. But again, it's about the same thing.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun as well because we gave ourselves that sort of constraint. It meant we could really mess around with the production, and that's why I really enjoy it.
It was the most different song I think we've written. Holy was the next one, which is probably the one that you had most of a problem with at first.
Yeah, I just didn't understand it completely at first. Because that was one of the first songs that came back from the record, and it was like, oh wow.
Because I guess it's so instantly poppy when it comes in.
Yeah.
That song just started with, I found a voice note on my phone, and it was that, which is the melody for the chorus, and I just sort of worked out some chords underneath it, and then recorded that, so it just was based around that, and then we ended up filling in the gaps between those parts. And it took a while to get... Originally it was a lot slower, and it had like these weird verses which were kind of like, I don't know what they sounded.
Oh yeah,
it was almost like a really poppy intro and then this weird like dark, slow indie verse. So we changed that, so basically ripped off Justin Bieber. So it was a bit more upbeat and fun. The next song
is Saviour, isn't it? Which we wrote on a lovely little trip up in the Lake District in the UK.
This one started out as a joke. We wanted to write like an
early 2000s sort of pop song
mixed with like a cheesy country song.
And then we got so far into it and we were just like,
it's actually quite good.
That's the best chorus we've got.
Yeah, we originally were just doing it because we didn't have any inspiration for a song to go on the record, yeah. So we just started recording this as a joke to sort of get something going.
Sonically it's the most different on the record as well, because it's acoustic driven, whereas everything else is much more relying on electronic textures and things like that.
I think we just wanted it to sound sort of like Torn by Natalie Imbruglia. I think we sort of achieved that.
Yeah.
There's a slide guitar on it which I played with a spoon because I didn't have a guitar slide. That's a fun fact.
And if you listen carefully, in the first verse,
It says bottled up inside.
and we thought, how far can we go with this? And so we put a bottle smash in it.
On the word bottle, there's a
So,
smash bottle, which is
yeah.
uber cheese.
I mean, I don't know how we haven't been pulled up for that.
No one's even noticed it or mentioned it. What's the next one?
Fear.
This is a song that this was
It was the last track we managed to write. We were going to have a different song on the record, and we just weren't quite happy with it. And then on the last 2 days before we had to, of our allotted time to be done, we were just like, nah, let's just write something completely different. And I suppose going in the like more synth-based and electronic direction, Fear is like the furthest point of that on the record.
The verses are very minimalist and miserable, and the chorus is a bit more uplifting and poppy, I guess. The lyrics are really about like how people can treat love and people's emotions like a drug and like become addicted to it, and yeah, that's essentially what I wrote it about. And then the next one is a song Pure.
Some of your best lyrics on the record, I think.
Do you think?
I think so.
Pure is about the exact same thing as Ritual in terms of a specific situation, which I won't talk about because it's mental. But I always wanted two songs that ran into each other perfectly, so we created Pure Evil. So we'll just talk about that as one song, I guess. Pure was like it's the rockiest song on the record, and it's the most upbeat sounding, I guess. And Evil is the lowest point of the record, I think. And I just wanted that kind of like up and down flow from one to the other. And the last lyric of Pure becomes the first lyric of Evil. And title-wise, Pure and Evil are opposites, but when they're put together, it's just a more powerful version of the latter. So I wanted that as well. It's also a turning point in the record.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's the midpoint of the record from where it goes from quite poppy and upbeat to a bit more moody.
It's very miserable. Yeah.
What's the next one?
Next up
I've forgotten
is
the track list.
Heaven.
Oh, Heaven.
And Heaven, again, was one we started when we were snowed in.
We almost abandoned it because we couldn't come up with any lyrics.
And also because we had this chorus hook for ages, and then we worked out...
Which is the choir part.
Yeah, in the key it was in, it was so high. But
low.
Yeah, also low, that the only way to really do it was to get a choir in. So that was almost by necessity that we got a choir in, and then they ended up being on a few other tracks as well. But this is the one where you can hear him most heavily.
Heaven is one of my favourites on the record. Again, there's not really that much guitar in it. We found this weird synth loop which we used for the main bulk of the song, and we just built it up around that. But we almost abandoned it because we had the full recorded music, and then I just didn't have any lyrics, I didn't have any melodies for it.
It was the morning after your birthday,
It was the morning
wasn't it?
after
Because
my
we were
birthday.
all disastrously hungover, and Phil, who produced the record, was panicking a little bit
Because
about getting everything done.
Yeah, we had 5 days left to do it, and we were still missing like 4 songs.
And
So I just went and sat in a room and drank some Prosecco, and I basically blacked out, and then woke up and I had a whole set of lyrics written, and they were what became Heaven.
next up is Worship. I think we wrote it in about 15 minutes. It was probably the only song where we actually wrote and mapped out the entire structure first.
On an acoustic guitar.
On an acoustic
instead
guitar,
of like
yeah.
recording software,
Yeah.
which is how we did the rest of it. I wanted it to be based around an acoustic guitar hook that goes all the way through and doesn't really stop.
Yeah, to push it.
And the chorus.
Well, you look better than you ever did, giving me the eyes before you walked in, talking that shit about how we fit perfectly together, yeah, but everything's a mess when I'm around you. I wish I never found you.
Most of our choruses are quite.
Hello, I'm a chorus.
Yeah. I wanted this one to be quite different, and so that's why the fast-paced lyrics are there. I think it breaks it up. Again, I really like that song.
It's really sad.
I wanted to create like a mood and make it sad without actually being like slow and depressing. But I think we managed to do it.
Yeah, there's like certain chords that we use in it where you just hint at whether they're major or minor, and for me that always sounds sadder because
It's just pure Ryan Adams.
yeah, and it allows so much more space for everything. By this point in the record, you're really starting to understand that something that starts off sounding quite happy and fun, while still lyrically dealing with the same themes ends up very much the opposite of that.
The next one's Saint.
It is Saint.
The next one is a song called Saint, which is actually a song that I didn't write. Our keyboard player Max wrote it. He and I used to play together, like we did a solo thing, I guess, for a little while, and it was a song that we had for that. And I think the record was missing like not a ballad, but like a album ender.
Yeah.
So yeah, we basically re-recorded what we had before and changed all the integral sounds so it became a bit more fitting with the record.
Brought it into the 21st century, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, absolutely. It rounds up the album well because it is about wishing that you'd made different decisions and you lived your life a cleaner way and maybe didn't indulge in alcohol or other things so much. So yeah, I think that rounds it off. That was going to be the last track, and then I wrote this little short piece, which is Epiphany, which ended up being the last track on the record. This was just me sort of thinking, if I existed in like a parallel universe where I could completely begin again, would I have made the same decisions and choices and mistakes that I have made in this life? If I could start again, what potentially I could have been, but then alluding to at the end that it's too late.
And it is unbelievably miserable.
It's the most miserable song I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and production-wise, one thing we really wanted to do is, if you listen to the album and accidentally say have like album repeat on, you'll notice that it runs straight back into Wake, which is just something almost hypnotic.
We found
we
found a note because the songs, the Epiphany and Wake are in completely different keys. So we found a note that runs through both chords, and we just literally kept that going, and it does just go around in a circle.
Yeah, I really enjoy how it goes from that, and if you leave it, comes straight back to the happy bouncy song that is Sinner. Well, sounding.
Yeah, that's Rituals.
That is Rituals.